we all deal with the unexpected in life. They held me captive in an abandoned construction site. They tortured, beat me. You can fill in all the gory details. For some reason, I don't know why, eventually they let me go. As I was there, lying on the cement floor for all these days, going through the unthinkable, I kept thinking, I kept trying to barter with God, please set me free. Once I'm free, I'll be happy. I'll be a better person. I won't be mean to my little brother and sister.
So good morning, Cheryl. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I'd love to dive into your journey a little bit and talk about how you got into the world of media and news and all these kind of stuff, and how you help people to do the same thing. Welcome.
Absolutely. I think with all of us, in some real sense, there's a kind of crazy, circuitous journey where we started out one place, had maybe an objective, and the way we get there is always so unexpected, right? I grew up in a really remote Colorado Rockies town. I grew up in a horse ranch, and we were in the flyover zone. There were no signs of civilization from our ranch. It was that remote. It could have been hundreds of years ago or modern day, but I used to lie on the ground and look up at planes and think, I'd lie there, truly among the cows and horses, just lying on the grounds, looking at the planes as a little girl, thinking, man, I want to be the girl in the plane, looking down at the girl lying here in the horse meadow. But I would have to have something to give people. I don't know what I could give or teach or how I could help people. All I really knew how to do at the time was ride and train horses. And I thought, there's people way better than I am at that. But I set out in the world to, just at that very tender young age, to become someone who could be going places and helping people. As a teenager, I decided that I just had to get out of this small town. And I left to go on a trip with my best friend just to figure out how to get out into the world. Now, I'd seen that, hey, they always need models, and nowhere near Rye, Colorado did we need those. So I thought, I'm tall enough. I'm on the boys basketball team. I have no interest in being a model per se, other than it could get me out of the small town. And so I went on vacation with my best friend, and no kidding, no sooner did we get to France than a man with a huge camera around his neck walked up and said, hey, are you a model? I can make you one. And I was like, wow, this is how easy it is to become a model in France. I'm obviously on the right path. I had this idea. Here I am.
You didn't have stranger danger going off?
I did. Trevor, I was a child, as a teenager,
Yeah.
but I also thought,
I've seen that movie. That movie can go bad real fast.
Right. I was like, my life is wasting away here in the remote mountains where I never see people that I'm not related to. I had dreams. I wanted to do something other than just be a rancher. And so I thought, you know what? This is probably not the best idea. He wanted me to go with him and his big friend standing over against the wall. And I thought, this is probably not the best idea, but I'm strong. I drive a tractor trailer, despite my young age. I know how to wrestle a steer. I'm strong. I'm smart. I'm savvy. I'll go with them. I'll let them take my photos and I'll become a model. I'll figure it out. No matter how strong and smart and savvy I was no match for these criminals. They drugged me. They held me captive.
No way.
Yes.
Oh my God. So when I said stranger danger, that was real. Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. I'm so sorry.
It's, we all deal with the unexpected in life. They held me captive in an abandoned construction site. They tortured, beat me.
Oh
You
my
can fill in all
God.
the gory details.
Oh.
It, you can kind of fill in all the gory details with your mind, these criminals and me. And for some reason, I don't know why, eventually they let me go. Now, as I was there lying on the cement floor for all these days, going through the unthinkable, I kept thinking, I kept trying to barter with God, please set me free. Once I'm free, I'll be happy. I'll be a better person. I won't be mean to my little brother and sister. I'll hold my grandma's hand in public when she tries to grab my hand. And, I was a child. I didn't know. I was embarrassed about things like holding my grandma's hand. I kept trying to bargain with God, set me free and I will do good in the world. And then eventually they dumped me on this patch of grass. They pushed me out of the car. I was bloodied, bruised, beaten. They chopped off my hair. I mean, it was just, and then I'm free. And the most crazy thing happened, Trevor. I felt more captive than ever. It was now the captivity was between my ears, and I had repetitive thoughts like about vengeance and how do I get back at them. And I never can tell anybody what happened, or they'll know I'm dirty and rotten and used up and filthy and stupid beyond belief. And that my game was now, how do I hide this from anybody and still survive? And I realized, look, I'm not the first person to go through tragedy. There's others who've gone through far worse. What did they learn? What do they know? Somehow reading a book seemed insufficient to the hell that I was facing in between my ears. So I thought, I want to learn from these people, actually speak to them and understand, grapple with, roll up my sleeves, understand what they did and formulate some bridge to recovery. And that's what I did. I started volunteering at old age homes. It was just like, I thought, who's gone through a lot? Well, older people. Everybody was older. I was a teenager. And at first I just went there and, oh my God, they wanted to talk. Nobody listens to old people in our country, right? They just wanted to talk. But there were war veterans and Holocaust survivors and survivors of just unthinkable, unexpected things. And I just at first listened it, which was good because I didn't have to listen to the craziness between my own ears, the plans of revenge and all that. And then I started to codify what they'd done that worked and didn't, conversely. Why some of them were still angry and bitter and resentful, while others had gone on to live a really productive, fruitful
So
life.
you started to kind of build these commonalities in between their stories of like,
Yes.
hey, these people over here that went some hard times, and these were some of the things that they were doing to help, find freedom again.
Yes.
Mm,
What worked? What didn't?
wow.
Why? How? And I tried it on with myself, and it was surprisingly effective.
What were
And
some of those things that helped you to kind of, find, again, find freedom, but for yourself to be able to let go of some of those thoughts of, vengeance and revenge and to, did you find forgiveness? Was there, like, talk to me about that? What were some of those things? And first of
yes.
all, I just got to say, when I made that comment in the very beginning, I didn't understand your story. When I said, the stranger danger and all that kind of stuff. Oh my gosh. Wow. I did not know. Like, I totally thought this story was going a different direction about how you went and it helped you become a PR, superstar. Oh my gosh. I'm so like, wow.
Trevor, zero worries. I mean, the message about that it's possible to overcome. I wrote a couple books on it, and I wanted to get that message out to the world, and eventually did. Like you said, the CNNs, Fox News's, Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, all of that. I got that message out to the world. But at first, as I was there grappling with how in the hell Do I get out of this captivity of the mind? I was listening to these elderly people and what they had done that worked. And some of the things, what I really learned early on is that they said revenge never brings peace. And I was like, but wait, no, I want to make these sons of guns pay. I want to go back to France with some vigilante force and gun these sons of guns
Where's
down,
Batman when you need him?
and then I'll be happy.
Where's Batman when you need him? Come on, I need Batman to just because he gets pissed.
Come
He gets
on.
pissed off. That's what he does.
I mean, I had dreams about like crushing their skulls into the sidewalk, and I was like, okay, I'm not that physically strong. I can wrestle a steer, but that's about all I got. It just when I started to grapple with, okay, if revenge doesn't bring peace, what does? And they also started, those who had overcome found a way to authentically relate to the bad that had happened as a gift. And I was like, no, just no. At first, it was
You want
like,
to reject that. You're like,
maybe,
no, thank
right?
you.
Yes, out of hand rejection. I was like, maybe tolerate someday. Gift, hell no. But once I got from hating it to, okay, just maybe let's say tolerate, there was a profound state shift. And then up the ladder from tolerate to accept was another profound state shift. Each one of these state shifts gave more aliveness, more presence, more potency and power and peace. And it was remarkable. I didn't know myself, or started rather to find myself again, but like version 2.0. And then from acceptance to embrace, Trevor, what? It unlocked the gifts that it held when I moved from hate to tolerance to accept to embracing what had occurred. It suddenly became a benefit. It suddenly became a gift and gave me this opportunity not only to behold myself, but to give that away and become that little girl lying on the ground among the cow patties, looking up at the plains saying, I want to be somebody who's got something to give.
This reminds me.
I suddenly
This
had it.
reminds me of a song. It's a worship song called "Victory," and in that song, they talk about you took what the enemy made for evil and you turn it for good, right? And I think about that in my own life. There's been a lot of challenges and things that I've gone through that, it was the enemy, and God works it out and works it out and works it out and turns that thing around so that you can use this now as a weapon against the enemy.
Amen. So beautifully said. I'm 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 moved to tears by how beautiful that is. Thank you. You know, that journey from hating something to tolerating, accepting, and embracing. It was really a journey of saying yes to what's so. In other words, you know, maybe God has some insight here that I don't have. Maybe the Lord knows better than I. And the journey of moving down that pathway or up truly, because it was an elevation, was a journey of saying, thy will, not mine. Yes, yes, Lord. I'm going to say yes to what you've put in my path rather than fighting what you've put in my path. And then he can give the gift that it holds. And that only comes at the stage of actually embracing it.
Yeah, I asked. So I recently, I'm good friends. I'm not sure if you know who she is. Her name's Amberly Lago. Amberly Lago, in her story, she got in this motorcycle accident, and it almost took her leg. Like she had 19 surgeries on her leg, and um, had and then got this disease. I forget what it's called, but they call it the nickname of it is the suicide disease because it's so painful that a lot of people commit suicide. And anyway, so she like went through this whole journey, and I remember asking her when I had her on the show, and I said, "Hey, would you like if you could go back and not get on that motorcycle, like would you get on it?" She's like, "Absolutely, I would. I'd do it all over again." Because of the impact that it's been able to have once you overcome and once you come through on the other side. And what we're talking about is how God can take this seemingly, horrible situation and turn it for good. And now she's able to impact and inspire. And I'm sure you're doing the same thing with your story. Tell me about some of the results. Like, so you came through, you figured out how to turn this for your good. And then you wrote some books. What's happened since then? And talk to me about like some of the transformation that you've been able to help others with. I know you're making an impact out there.
Well, I at first started I started working with survivors of violent crime, survivors of trafficking, because they thought these guys were traffickers, the law enforcement ever since then. Survivors of all kind, rape and all sexual assault and all this stuff. I started working kind of close to home with people that had experienced something similar and helping them with this framework that I designed. I was kind of beta testing it, as it were. And I simultaneously, one of the things I did to save my own life was took a lot of personal development seminars and programs. And by the time I'd finished literally everything I could find, I got trained to lead them so I'd have some more facility with it. I could kind of be the author of that work for people as I was helping them through the process. It helped me as well. Now, what I did as my day job, I always loved to write, and I was blessed to I started writing scripts for TV shows, and I started first writing plays, and I had them developed by my work developed by HBO and NBC and Fox, and then I sold some TV shows. So my day job was writing TV, and I could see the power that major media had to shape the collective conversation. Like water cooler moments where everyone in the nation or everyone in the world is talking about the same
Yeah,
thing.
like when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Okay, that you couldn't get away from that story. Like that thing was everywhere.
Right.
Or like when Cat Williams went on the Shay Shay show, all of a sudden he was talking about, some stuff going on in the industry behind the scenes and this, that, and the other. They're like, man, that stuff was everywhere. There are times, you're right, when
There are times,
viral
the little
stories like,
girl falls down the
yeah,
well, and everyone in the nation is praying for her. Or there's some horrible school shooting, and everyone in the nation is gathered around the TV praying for the victims and families. And I thought, man, if I could use the power of major media and harness that to get a message like it's possible to overcome adversity and embrace the horrors that life gives us. If I could get that message out to the world, it would make a profound difference. Now, I was connected in media. I was a network TV writer, but it took me almost a decade to get my own message out to the world. I realized in the process, major media is designed to keep you out. And I didn't know how and why. I mean, I got blacklisted at,
what was that about? Why
at
why did that happen?
you know, well, I just didn't know any
Mm,
better. And wide-eyed and enthusiastic, I got introduced to a gatekeeper at Good Morning America, and I went about it, and I did all the wrong
mm.
things that I now
Well,
know
okay, yeah.
earmark
Well,
you
yeah.
at
What are those things? What are the don'ts? I want to know the
oh,
don'ts. What
Lord.
don't you do
Yeah,
to the
right, like,
gatekeeper?
you don't get introduced to a gatekeeper before you're media trained. Despite the fact that I knew how to write for TV, entirely different prospect than writing in sound bites. entirely different prospect than newsjacking. And most experts, when they want to get major media appearances, they go, I'm so great. I can talk about myself or my business and my product and my widget and my whatever. And they get on there and they make it the self-promotion show. And I started self-promoting about my books and my this and my that and that. Red flag. They're like, oh, no. Make sure never to book so and so. Still, I have never been on Good Morning America. There are unwitting things that people do that earmark them as someone who cannot be trusted with a segment. So I learned the hard way and finally got my message out to hundreds of millions. And I recognized at that point, Trevor, I thought, there's an industry dedicated to helping people overcome adversity. I'm going to step back and allow the mental health professionals to help people do that. But there's nothing that exists to help mission-driven entrepreneurs, experts get their message out to the world via major media. If it took me a decade as someone connected, people don't stand a snowball's chance in hell. So I pulled together the journalists that I had become friends with, the television producers, writers, directors, etc. And we now gather around these mission-driven people and help them break into major media so that they can share their expertise with the world and help people.
So, okay, so let me see if I can recap this here. So you built a network then of other media folks that can help get people on platforms, right? So okay, yeah. So you were like, man, this is tough, right? Trying to get there yourself, right? Let's go together, right? If we go together, I think there's more power in that. Was that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly right. I thought, if I'm going to give up the helping people overcome adversity business, what could I provide? What service could I provide for people? And I saw such a need in helping people break into media because of the good they could do. I truly believe that every problem we have in the world could be solved if the expert who's already doing good work in that area had a platform, had a reach, had the ability to be in front of millions that could hear their expertise.
Everybody that's listening right now on the podcast, I want you to think about whatever that thing is for you, whatever that dream, that mission, that purpose. What are you the expert at, right? Imagine if more people knew your name and that you are the person that does that thing, whether it's your business, whether it's even in your career. Let's say you're working in corporate America and you're the HR expert. But what if more people knew that you were the person, the go-to, right? You would have opportunities coming and flooding in your way. And this creates inbound, it creates opportunity, and it creates abundance, and it creates so much, Grant Cardone always talks about, if nobody knows you, nobody flows you. And where attention goes, money flows, right? And so, I totally agree with what you're saying. What if more people knew your name? And you deserve it. They should know your name.
And we've seen fame for fame's sake,
Sure.
whether it's the Kardashians, God bless them. I have nothing bad to say about them. They've stayed in the public eye beautifully.
Perfect example of where attention goes, money flows. Perfect
Yes,
example.
I mean, they've done it so
Yeah.
beautifully, and, I'm not them aside, the fact that they've been able to stay in the public eye, there's merit to that. If you've got something to provide for people. We've seen now influencers who are famous for being famous again, and it's, what if you could harness, capture the attention of the public to serve? That really, I think, is the next frontier.
Oh, yeah. Not only the next frontier, it's already here, right? It's already here. I mean, you got guys like, Gary V, I mean, what does he do? He does media, right? Like he does media and he does commercials and marketing and da 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 da, da, right? That's like what his business is about around VaynerMedia, right? And he's got multiple businesses, right? But he's putting out the content, he's got the platform, he's putting it out, and he's always been putting it out. But it's like you got a lot of people like that where they're getting their positive message out there, and they're changing things. And I think it's a trend we're starting to see. If you have a business, if you have a purpose, a mission, right? Again, what could it do if more people knew your name? If you were in front of the right, I mean, imagine that all of a sudden doors start opening because the right people start hearing you, seeing you, right? The decision makers hear you, see you, right? Doors open.
Whether it's, big decision makers or just the individuals who need what you've got. We have a client, there's this wonderful client of mine, Dr. Michael Hutchison. He had his son was 8 years old. He's a dentist. He studied concussion, and he wanted to find a way to stop concussions from happening. And when his son was 8 years old, he wanted to start playing contact sports. He was going to go into football. And Dr. Hutchison said, I have seen what happens in the NFL. I know that 10,800 people have a concussion a day, and it alters their life irrevocably for the worse. And he created a mouth guard that does something specific with your bottom jaw, holds it in this physiologic jaw position that prevents concussion in like 90 something percent. Now, he beta tested it, he got it into manufacturing, he got it patented, he did all this work and was trying to get it out to people and help them. But people were kind of like laughing him out of meetings saying, haven't you seen the NFL? The mouth guard goes on the top. Don't you know? Yours is on the bottom. It doesn't make sense. And he said, exactly. The concussion rate in the NFL or boxing or any of these things. And finally, we were able to help him get out there on TV and start to really permeate the listening and re-educate people. And now, do you know whether it's parents with their kids in sports or whether it's he's got it on pro athletes, like big celebrity pro athletes, and he's in right now in process of getting it out to our armed forces. And I'm thinking, this is a guy who could help individuals or those big decision makers you talk about in immeasurable ways, but he first had to get the message out, and he first had to re-educate people on there's a better way. And it's hard to get attention now. I mean, it's always been a little bit challenging if you're a business owner or an expert, but
Yeah, it's saturated now.
now literally,
And it's
yeah,
only going to get
everybody
worse.
on the planet.
Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
great lesson here for everybody to take note. Anybody that's like, I don't know if I should like start a podcast, or I don't know if I should make that video. I don't know. And like you've got something kind of holding you back. I want you to know it's only going to get harder. So if you don't start now, you got to get started. You should have been started, years ago. Like, let's get you in the pool, okay? Because guess what? It's only gonna get busier and busier and busier as far as like the traffic, as far as all of the noise, everything that's out. And you have to break through the noise of all these other people. And like people are jumping in this thing, and content creation is getting easier and easier and easier with AI and all these different things that's coming out. Like it's so get started I think is an important lesson here. Because otherwise, man, it's getting, it's harder to garner that attention nowadays.
You're so right, Trevor. It's like that old phrase, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. The challenge is now with social media, literally everyone on the planet has access to a microphone. How do you pierce through that? And you've done this extraordinary job of building your own platform, building an audience, providing this value for people that they keep tuning back in. But one of the things that people come to us and they're like, I don't want to invest 10 years into getting out there. Well, then the reason that we suggest major media is because you're able to leverage somebody else's
There we
audience
go.
rather
Mic drop.
rather than slog it out.
Mic drop. Let me tell you something. That was a huge lesson for me. Okay. That was my biggest takeaway when last year, I went to Grant Cardone's 10X Growth Conference, right? And the biggest takeaway for me was they have 10X stages, and what they teach is other people's stages. See, I've been doing this show since January of 2018. And do you know how much time, energy, do you know the work over the last 6.5 years I've put in over the hundreds and hundreds of episodes and just to build, an audience? And it's like, yes, there's a lot of positives, and I will speak to that. I think you should have your own show. I think you should have your own podcast, all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of benefit to it. But man, I was like, when they talked about leveraging other people's audience, now you're just showing up and you're the star. They're spotlighting you. You're the star, right? I mean, it was a huge aha moment for me because I was doing it this way, building my own stage, when I could have been leveraging other people's stages and what they're building, and they're bringing the audience, and now when you step onto their stage, you've got instant credibility, right? Anyway, so yeah, speak on that, because that was a huge takeaway for me last year and something I'm focused on this year.
Yeah, there's such power in that. It took you all this time to get to where you are. It took me that decade of already being connected in media and working in media to get my own message out to media. It's long and hard to do it that way versus somebody else. And major media, you could tune into a show that's got an audience of 3.5 million. I mean, if you look at even some of the online platforms, like the digital platforms like Yahoo, that's hundreds of millions of daily viewers. If you can get an interview with them, you're suddenly leveraging this massive group of people. Now, they all won't be your target audience, but a heck of a lot of them will. It's, our clients are business owners and brand owners, and, they may be running ads, which is, part of a great business strategy. But when someone sees your ad, they're going to go, who is this person? And then go do a little research if they're interested. And generally our ads and what's on our own website or socials or our own marketing, it's the stuff we say about ourselves. I'm the best podiatrist in the Tri-Cities region or whatever, versus NBC News interviews you, Time Magazine does a profile on you, and they say revolutionizing foot care. And it's suddenly like the best podiatrist in the tri-state region. No, who cares? It pales by comparison. Nobody cares what you say about you. It's what are the experts? What are those with real authority and gravitas? What are they saying
That's so
about
good
you?
too, because that's like, they say when you talk about a personal brand, your personal brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room, right? And so it's not what you say about yourself. You could look in the mirror and be like, yeah, I'm the greatest, I'm the best, I'm the da 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 da. But if the outside world says you suck, that's what your personal brand is, right? So what you're saying is, again, on your website, you could be patting yourself on the back, talking about how great you are, you're the best, dentist or whatever. But if that's not what the rest of the world is saying, then but if you can leverage some of these news and media outlets to talk about how great you are, again, it's that borrowed trust. Like people are gonna listen to that, right?
You're borrowing the authority of that major media source. And then, particularly if you're new, and people, you're still unproven. You do good work. I'm saying all this predicated upon the assumption that you're doing good in the world. But suddenly you've got this authority standing behind you that edifies you in a way that nothing else can.
Well, let's talk for a second about paid media like that, paid media coverage, right? Because I'll just be transparent. I paid for a publication once, but I'm going to tell you, it was my first one. I paid for it, and it because of that, and it wasn't cheap. It was like $2,500 to get on this publication, right? And it wasn't even a deep dive. It wasn't, no, there was no video with it. There was no interview. There was no, like, it was just a little bit of a paragraph of me in this thing, not even anything fancy, okay? But I got to now use Forbes logo, right? You see what I'm saying? And when I had that, all of a sudden it gave credibility and it gave that authority. And then all of a sudden, I was getting picked up now. I got people reaching out to me saying, "Hey, I noticed you were featured in Forbes. I want to have you on my podcast." Or, "Hey, and then all of a sudden other news publications. And now, so the one paid got me a lot of free news publication. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. There are, how I told you I assembled a team of gatekeepers, of people who make major media. And together we created, I have my brand's called Magnify Your Message. And I've got relationships with 50, 55 gatekeepers, something like this. And one thing I hear repeatedly from them is about the trap of paid media. The part of the problem with a lot, I'd say most of the paid media out there, is that it will read, if it's written, sponsored advertiser content. If it's one of those TV segments that you buy time on, it will have some sort of addendum, footnote, something like that, that lets people know you bought it. Similarly, some big authors now do a thing where it's like, "Hey, I'll sell you a chapter in my book." Everybody knows that's a pay for play phenomenon. And what these gatekeepers, the people who make decisions on, this week I had somebody from CBS, the CBS Evening News, and CBS This Morning, and CBS This Weekend, working with my clients. This person says, whenever we see that, we're like, "Oh, they can't earn media. That's a red flag." And, I talk about the blacklist. That person goes on it. That's the challenge. Somehow you excuse me, escaped unscathed. Say that 5
Well,
times
thank you,
fast.
God. You were looking out for me. Okay. Okay. So,
Truly.
yeah, because
And you
it
did it
didn't,
fairly cheaply too, at 2,500. We've had clients come in who've spent over
mm,
$50,000 for a TV segment that ran at 4 a.m. and it was sponsored TV content, and it never, or, sponsored advertiser content, never really got out
yeah,
there. But major media knows if you're doing paid or if you're doing earned.
right.
The holy grail is earned.
So what's the difference
You don't
then?
want
I'm
anything
just
else.
curious, and you this is a coaching moment for me. So I just want to learn. Okay. So what's the difference in then if I come to you as a client, right? And let's say I want to work with you and you're pitching me and I'm paying you, right? So I would pay you and then you would pitch me. So that's not really, I'm not really buying it from Forbes per se. I'm buying it from you for you to help pitch me and get me placed. Is that how that works? Or talk to me?
Well, I don't own the media, so earned media you can never guarantee. So if you find a publicist or somebody else who goes, "I guarantee you," run, just
Got it.
run. Unless I own NBC News, I can't say you're getting on
Okay, so
NBC
then I
News.
think that's what it was. Um,
But there's a publicist who is like, I've built
yep,
relationships. Like I said, I've got relationships with 50 plus
yep.
gatekeepers. I can pitch
That's
you in a way that, like I'd said earlier, ties you into current news cycles in such a way that your expertise makes a difference for their
That makes sense.
audience.
Okay, so to your point here, that's exactly what I went through. See, I'm just trying to see what direction I went through. When I did mine, I worked with a guy who pitched me, and then I even had to still go through like an interview process with Forbes. So it wasn't like I got a guarantee for this. It was like he was pitching me to Forbes and had the relationships with Forbes and said, hey, and then I had to go through like an interview process and then bada bing, bada boom. So anyway, so it sounds like there's two different ones. So there's some that are guaranteeing you media placements where you're literally just buying that media placement,
Which is just sponsored
sponsored
advertiser content.
advertisement.
You may as
Okay,
well you may as well be running an ad. Nobody's
got it.
if you've got an ad on CBS Evening News, nobody's going to believe you were on CBS Evening
See, guys,
News. It's just
see,
an
this is
ad.
great for you listeners out there. There's a difference here, right? See, I didn't even know the difference of what I did. I thought you know what I mean? But walking through this and talking through this, I'm like, okay, actually I went in this other direction and not the paid ad type of scenario. It was more of like he had the relationships, I paid him, he had the relationships, he pitched me. I still had to kind of go through the vetting process, and then they accepted the story because it aligned with what they were talking about, and then bada bing, bada boom. So there is two different kind of directions there. That's interesting. Okay.
That gatekeeper I was talking about from CBS this week, who was working with my clients, one of the things that they said was, you know, we did a debrief afterward, and they said, God, one of the things I love about working with you is that your clients are actually media trained. Mostly publicists send me people who have no idea how media works. So they come in here, I'm putting my job on the line every time I pitch them to the higher ups, even though I've won 3 Emmys. They said, even though I've been in media for 30 years and I've won 3 Emmys, my job is on the line every time I put somebody up for a segment, every time. I don't need to get chewed out from the higher ups. I don't need to have my job threatened. I don't need to get in trouble and have a pension on the line. I don't need that. So that's why we keep using the same people. She said, but when you bring me these people who are so trained, I know I can trust them with my segment. I know they can deliver. I know they won't self promote or fill in the
Have you
blanks.
heard of Jeff Crilly? Does that name ring a bell to you, Jeff Crilly?
Jep.
Jeff Crilly.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Jeff. No,
Jep.
Jeff. No,
Oh
Jeff
God, that's
Crilly.
hysterical. I have to say, my sister's dog is named Jep. And he has a little, he's been a little under the weather, and I suddenly heard Jep. I have met
You've
Jeff
met him?
Crilly.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we had a Zoom. He was a
Oh,
gem.
yeah.
Yeah, I met him.
And he's an Emmy
He
award
wanted,
winning
yeah,
journalist, Fox 4 News for like
he's in
forever.
uh Atlanta or
Dallas.
Texas.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's
Yep.
got a PR firm, Real News PR, and I work with him, so I use his studios over there when we do our podcast for like live studio audience. We just did.
Are you in
Yep.
Dallas?
Are you?
No, I am
Oh.
not. But I was there earlier this
Oh, okay.
year. Wait, what is that? But I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Well, you know those
So we
commercials.
got to connect then when you're here, you know what I mean? And
Heck
but yeah,
yeah.
I was with him yesterday. I did his show yesterday, the Jeff Curley show, and but yeah, that his story of how he's built the relationships, because again, he was in the industry.
In local
Yep,
news for so
local news for
long.
so long, and
Yeah.
he's got all of those relationships. And what he does is something called the rundown. So he's got this email newsletter that he's literally done daily for he told me it's 20 years or something crazy, but and he'll put this rundown of all the news stories, and it goes out to all of these publicists, right? So, and then he'll put the person who's an expert who could speak on this subject. So here's a story, let's just name a story. Like, here's I don't know, like let's say it was the whole Will Smith slapping thing, right? Okay, here's the story that's going trending right now that every news publication wants to pick up and talk about, right? Here's an expert who can talk about that subject. So he'll put that in there in that rundown. And then so now I think he's got like 30 or 40,000 publicists who subscribe to this newsletter because he's been doing it for so long. And so they'll pick it up. So if he puts your name in that rundown, your phone blows up with all these new, because they want you to talk on that subject because it's a hot topic right now today. And it's like, you got to go now. So it's happened to me a few times where he put my name in there, and oh my goodness, my phone blows up. Hey, we need you on this show. We need to da, da, ba, 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 bing, bing, boom. I'm like, holy smokes. Time to rock and roll. Let's go.
Local TV can particularly if you've got a brick and mortar business, local TV, local news, it can hyper targeted local news can be very helpful. Yeah, that one of the first things that
Oh,
we
you're
do with
frozen.
our clients is
You're
help them
frozen. I don't know what
ascertain
happened, but oh, there you
where
are. You're
the
back.
people.
You were
Oh,
frozen for 2 seconds. It's all good.
oh goodness. I said local news, hyper targeted local news, particularly if you've got a brick and mortar, can be very helpful. One of the things we do right up front with our clients is help them ascertain where the people they serve live, like what news they consume. Radio, newspapers, magazines, online, digital TV, national TV, local TV. So local news can be very helpful for people. That's cool.
Absolutely. Okay. I got a couple questions I want to dive into here. Okay. What do you think are some common misconceptions about major media coverage that some of your clients have, and how do you help them overcome? What are some of those misconceptions, common things that people are just not really understanding?
So that first one that I mentioned about, I just want to be introduced to a gatekeeper, and that's all I need is can be the death knell for people. You don't want to do that until you've already gotten some major media. Now it's a catch 22, right? Major media major media won't feature you until you've got major media for the exact reason that I mentioned with that gatekeeper from CBS National, that their job is on the line every time. So you need major media to get major media, but you do not want to go straight to a gatekeeper before you have media training. You need to know how to speak in sound bites, how to be camera ready, how to be interview ready, how to pivot. There's a saying in media, conflict is king, because it creates viewership and eyeballs and listenership. So generally, or oftentimes, what's done is the new guy is thrown on the sword in service of conflict or drama or creating something that people will stay tuned for. You need to know how to pivot out of that with grace. So you don't be introduced to a gatekeeper before you're media trained and you've got major media
That's
already.
so true, because there are sometimes they're going to ask you a question that you may get hung up in a trap almost, right? You don't know, and you're just like, you're in it, and it's like, how do you pivot? Like, that pivot is so important. I mean, I've been caught in those scenarios too, where I'm like, oh crap, right?
Even as experienced as you are, you can still get caught in something you don't want to answer, or they're trying to. We had a client recently, they were trying to politicize her message, and it isn't. Everyone has their own bucket list media. 60 Minutes, for example, a profile by Time Magazine, The Today Show, Good Morning America, whatever it is. You aren't going to walk straight into those shows. You need to first get major media, prove yourself, be invited back, hone your message, all, like I said, get media trained, all of those things before going to your bucket list. And usually what people will do is burn a bridge. They'll either try to find out through some 6 degrees of separation who they know at 60 Minutes. And I just need to get introduced to a gatekeeper, that myth that we just destroyed. They'll try to go to bucket list first and try to just get introduced to someone first, neither of which work. The next myth is, hey, I write well. Therefore, I can write my own messaging for major media. It's a different beast. A soundbite, talking points, a compelling core message, and newsjacking are four of the elements that you need in order to be a major media correspondent, not correspondent, excuse me, commentator. And those things are a different beast. Even people who are authors come to us and recognize they don't know how to write. I didn't know as a network TV writer how to write that
Say
way.
those four
It's
again.
just
There was four
sound
sound bites.
bites, talking
Talking
points,
points.
a compelling core message, and
And
newsjacking.
newsjacking. What's newsjacking?
Newsjacking is the skill of being able to leverage what is currently happening in the news and the zeitgeist in
Got it.
even the
It's the
calendar.
rundown. It's Jeff Crilly's rundown. What he puts is those trending stories, right? Like
Well, it's trending stories, but it's oftentimes what's in the zeitgeist. What are people already talking about? And distinct from that, what media gatekeepers are always looking for is how can you provide value for their audience? And so it's the ability to take what people are already discussing and serve an audience with it. Now, there are those out there who are like, major media is not about that. It's just about if it bleeds, it leads, which is true. But the gatekeepers we work with and us here at Magnify Your Message, we're about serving. And it's why our experts get invited back again and again and again to big, bona fide sources like Fox News National, like Good Morning America, like the Today Show, like this. They get invited back again and again because they serve an audience. They provide value.
and so you got to get started with some got to get a little bit of got to get something under your belt, right? And then it sounds like you start working with some of these major ones like you were just talking about, Good Morning America and this, that, and the other, right? And you do a good job, you're gonna get,
Well, you don't
you
start
don't
there
start
though.
there,
You
right?
start at the
Sure.
smaller affiliates
Yep.
or what have
Yep.
you.
Exactly. You get some of those under your belt, right? And then once you get up to some of the bigger ones, like you're saying that the goal here is that you're like a trusted speaker for them essentially, and they're going to come back to you.
People mistakenly think, here's a myth. I'm going to get on there and look so good. And they'll invite me back again and again because I'm going to look so good. No, that's flipped upside down. You're going to get on there and get invited back because you make the gatekeeper look so good. You make them look like a superstar for finding you. And the way you do that is you serve their audience. Now, there's a particular whole way that I don't have time to get into on how you serve their audience and the best ways to do that. But you're making them look good. And if you can shift your context from I'm going to come out shining to they are going to come out shining, you will get invited back again and again.
Well, this is like a freaking masterclass in here, seriously. And I know there's so much more. And that's why I want to make sure the audience can connect with you specifically, right? Because you are the expert in this. I mean, you're teaching me stuff I didn't even realize. Again, what I was doing when I first started, sounds like I actually did it the right way. And I didn't know. I thought I was just paying to play, right? Pay to play. But now, after going through this, I'm recognizing that he actually had the relationships. I still had to go through a process, so it wasn't an ad. It wasn't like a paid ad. So a little bit different. It's good to understand these things. There's a lot of different ways to do it. So, anyways, where I was going with that is the audience connecting with you. Where's the best way for them to connect with you so they can learn more about what you do, how you do it, why you're the best person to put them in the news, to get them on these platforms so they can get their message out there and get heard by more people?
My website is CherylHunter.com, CHERYL Hunter.com. I regularly do live masterclasses, and I'll go for 6 to 9 days and just go an hour a day and provide things on those. I've started providing these so that people can get their message out to the world, and it's stuff that I only provide to our client. I have only provided to our clients in the past. Those are something great you can do when you come to the website. There's also info about Magnify Your Message, my flagship program as well. But there's tons of resources that I provide on how you can do this so that, like I said, I wasted a decade so that you never have to do that.
I hear you. You built the stage, right? You built the stage. You went out there and you've got the network and you've got the connections and you've got the relationships and you've got all this stuff. It's kind of like me when I put in all this time building this stage, building this platform, right? And someone else can just walk up and leverage what you built. Like, talk about the velvet rope. Okay, like, let's let people pass the velvet rope. Okay, skip the line, right? This is like if you've ever been to Six Flags, they got this thing called the Fast Pass. And every time I go, I'm like, I'm gonna pay extra. Give me that Fast Pass. I'm not waiting in line. I'm gonna ride every roller coaster here today, and I'm not gonna wait in line. So what you offer for people is the Fast Pass, that they don't have to wait in line and have a miserable experience at Six Flags, because that sucks when you're waiting in line all day.
Yep.
Hot.
We just want the fun. We just want the roller
I just want to ride.
Right?
Let's go. Okay. So that's what you're offering people. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for what you do. Thank you for your message. I'm grateful for you. Seriously, what you've been through and your gift in helping others to find freedom in overcoming their adversities and their obstacles. It's truly inspiring. And I just want to lift you up and let you know that you're a light in this world. Keep shining. We appreciate you so stinking much. And thank you for being here today.
Trevor, it's my honor.
All right. Well, guys, that is the show. It's all about who you know. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Who You Know Show podcast. My name is Trevor Houston, and if you've enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing wherever you listen and leave us a positive review to help us keep the mics on in the studio. Until next week, that's the show. It's all about who you know.